The shuttle bay doors opened with a soft hiss, and Ambassador Marcus Chen stepped onto the station platform. He carried a simple black briefcase and wore a dark blue suit that looked plain compared to the colorful robes and armor around him. His gray hair was neatly combed, and he walked with the calm pace of someone who had done this many times before. The Nexus Prime orbital station was huge. Marcus could see through the clear walls that showed the planet below, a world covered in purple oceans and golden continents. Ships from dozens of different species moved in and out of the docking bays. Some looked like giant insects made of metal. Others glowed with bright lights, or seemed to be made of living crystal. A tall, thin alien approached him. Its skin was blue and smooth like polished stone. "Ambassador Chen," it said in perfect English, though its voice sounded like wind chimes. "I am Guide Melody of Stars, from the Zephyrian delegation. The council is ready to meet with you." Marcus nodded politely. "Thank you. I appreciate your help." As they walked through the station corridors, other aliens stopped to stare at him. Most had never seen a human in person before. Earth had only made contact with the Galaxy Council 5 years ago, and humans were still considered new and unimportant. A group of insect-like creatures clicked their mandibles as he passed. Their bodies were covered in hard, black shells that made them look like giant beetles walking on 2 legs. One of them was almost 3 meters tall and had scars across his face armor. "So that is a human," the large one said loudly enough for Marcus to hear. "They look even weaker than the reports suggested." Marcus kept walking without showing any reaction. He had heard worse things said about his species in the past few years. The meeting chamber was enormous, with a curved ceiling that showed a view of space above them. Representatives from 12 different species sat around a circular table. Each had their own section designed for their specific needs. The insect creatures sat on flat stones. The Zephyrians had tall crystal pillars to rest against. A section filled with glowing gas contained the representatives from the Nebulae Collective. Marcus took his seat at the human section, which was just a simple chair and desk. It looked tiny compared to the elaborate setups around him. Council Prime Resonance of Crystal Winds called the meeting to order. Her voice rang like a bell through the chamber. "We gather today to discuss trade agreements with the human species of Earth. Ambassador Chen, please present your proposal." Marcus stood and opened his briefcase. He pulled out a tablet and began speaking in a clear, steady voice. "Thank you, Council Prime. Humanity is honored to be here today. We come seeking fair trade partnerships that benefit all parties involved." He touched his tablet, and a holographic display appeared above the table. It showed Earth's location, population numbers, and available resources. Earth can offer rare minerals, agricultural products, and technological innovations. In return, we seek access to established trade routes and knowledge-sharing agreements. Warmaster Clickthok, the large insect creature Marcus had seen earlier, let out a harsh laugh. "Rare minerals? Your entire planet produces less metal in a year than a single Vexthai mining asteroid. And technology? Your species barely learned to leave your own solar system." Several other council members made sounds of agreement. The gaseous beings in their containment area flickered with what looked like amusement. Marcus remained calm. "While Earth's production may seem small compared to established galactic powers, our methods are efficient, and our quality is high. We also bring fresh perspectives to old problems." "Fresh perspectives," repeated another council member, a creature that looked like a walking tree with glowing fruits for eyes. "Is that what you call inexperience?" "We prefer to call it innovation," Marcus replied. He touched his tablet again, and the display changed to show several human inventions. "These are solutions we developed independently. Perhaps they could be improved through collaboration." For the next hour, Marcus presented humanity's case with careful precision. He quoted galactic trade laws, referenced historical precedents, and showed detailed knowledge of each species' culture and customs. When the Zephyrians mentioned their crystal-singing traditions, Marcus spoke about human music and found common ground. When the tree-like grovelings discussed their forest ecosystems, he connected them to Earth's conservation efforts. The council members began to look surprised. They had expected a bumbling presentation from a primitive species. Instead, Marcus demonstrated a deep understanding of galactic politics and trade systems. "How does he know about the Treaty of Seven Moons?" whispered one delegate to another. "He is citing laws that most species forget exist," another murmured. But their surprise only made them more annoyed. Warmaster Clickthak's mandibles clicked angrily. "Impressive research, human. But knowledge stolen from our databases does not make your species worthy of equal treatment, I assure you. This knowledge came from careful study, not theft," Marcus said politely. "Study of what?" "Your species has been in space for barely a decade." Marcus paused for just a moment. Something flickered across his face. Too quick for most to catch. "Humanity has always been curious about the wider universe. We prepared carefully for this day." The presentations continued for several more hours. Other council members made their own proposals, most of which involved humanity providing raw materials while receiving very little in return. The Vexthai wanted mining rights to Earth's moon. The Grovelings demanded access to all of Earth's forest preserves. The Nebulae Collective offered to buy human water at prices far below market value. Each time, Marcus politely declined and suggested fairer alternatives. He had counterproposals ready for every demand, backed by legal precedents and economic data. His preparation was so thorough that it seemed impossible for someone from a primitive species to have put it together. As the day wore on, the council members grew more frustrated. They had expected to dictate terms to a weak new species. Instead, they found themselves in actual negotiations with someone who knew the rules as well as they did. "This is taking too long," Warmaster Clickthak finally declared. "The human speaks well, but words are easy. Your species needs to understand its place in the galactic order." Marcus set down his tablet and folded his hands on the desk. "And what place would that be, Warmaster?" "Below us," the giant insect replied. "Far below us." The chamber fell silent. Even the bubbling sounds from the aquatic delegates' tanks seemed to quiet down. Marcus looked around the room, meeting each representative's gaze with calm, steady eyes. "I see," he said quietly. "Perhaps we should take a short break to consider our positions more carefully." But Warmaster Clickthak was not interested in breaks. His patience had run out completely. The tension in the chamber grew thick as Warmaster Clickthak rose from his stone platform. His massive frame cast a shadow over the circular table, and his forearms flexed inside his black chitinous armor. The scars on his faceplates told the story of countless battles across the galaxy. Marcus remained seated, looking up at the towering figure without any sign of fear or anger. His hands stayed folded on the desk, his expression calm and patient. "Your species thinks it can come here and demand equal treatment," the Warmaster said, his voice growing louder with each word. "You quote our laws back to us as if you wrote them. You speak of fair trade as if you have something valuable to offer." Other council members watched the scene unfold. Some leaned forward with interest, while others shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The Zephyrian delegate's crystal form flickered with nervous energy. "The Vexthai have conquered 17 star systems," Clickthak continued, beginning to pace around the table toward Marcus. "We have fought wars that lasted centuries. Our warriors are legends across the galaxy. And you are nothing. Your entire species is nothing." Marcus finally spoke, his voice still calm and respectful. "With respect, Warmaster, I believe every species has value. That is the foundation of the Galaxy Council itself." The insect warrior stopped pacing and turned to face Marcus directly. His compound eyes gleamed with rage. "The Galaxy Council was built by strong species for strong species. Weak races exist to serve their betters. That is the natural order." "I do not agree with that assessment," Marcus said simply. "Of course you do not agree." Clickthak's voice rose to a roar. "Prey animals never agree when predators explain the truth of the universe." Several delegates made worried sounds. The tree-like groveling representative rustled his leaves anxiously. Even the gaseous beings in their containment area seemed to pull back from the growing confrontation. Council Prime resonance of crystal winds chimed softly. "Warmaster, Perhaps we should. No, Click-Thack cut her off. The War Master reached into his armor and pulled out what looked like a small metal rod. With a quick motion, he activated it, and it extended into a long spear with a glowing energy tip. The weapon hummed with dangerous power. "This is a neuron disruptor," he said, holding it where Marcus could see it clearly. "One touch will shut down your nervous system permanently. I have used it to kill enemies twice your size." Marcus looked at the weapon without flinching. "That is an impressive piece of technology. You should be begging for your life," Click-Thack snarled. "Should I? I was under the impression that this was a diplomatic meeting, not a combat arena." The War Master's mandibles clicked rapidly with fury. "Everything is a combat arena if you are weak enough. Your species controls 3 star systems. 3. The Vexthai control 47. The Zephyrians control 32. Even the smallest members of this council control more territory than your entire civilization." Marcus nodded thoughtfully. "Those are accurate numbers. And yet you sit here, demanding equal treatment, demanding fair trade agreements, demanding respect." Click-Thack's voice dripped with disgust. "Do you know what we call species like yours? Prey? Food for stronger races to consume when we feel like it." The chamber had gone completely silent, except for the humming of the energy spear and the War Master's heavy breathing. Even the mechanical translation devices seemed to have stopped their quiet chattering. "Furthermore," the War Master continued, "your species is soft. Weak. I have studied the biological reports. No natural armor. No claws. No venom. No ability to survive in space without artificial protection. You are evolutionary failures who somehow stumbled into space travel." Marcus listened to every word without interrupting. "The only reason we allow Earth to continue existing is because destroying you would require effort we prefer to spend elsewhere. But that can change very quickly if you continue to waste our time with these ridiculous negotiations." The human ambassador finally responded. "I understand your position, War Master. However, I must respectfully disagree with your conclusions about humanity." "Disagree?" Click-Thack's compound eyes glowed brighter. "You disagree with facts? With obvious reality?" "I disagree with your interpretation of those facts." The War Master let out a sound that was half laugh and half snarl. "Your interpretation. The interpretation of a prey species that has existed in space for less time than I have been alive." Marcus stood up from his chair, moving slowly and keeping his hands visible. Even standing, the top of his head barely reached Click-Thack's chest armor. "Perhaps," Marcus said quietly, "you should reconsider who exactly you are calling prey." That was the final straw for the War Master's patience. His warrior pride, already stretched thin by having to negotiate with what he saw as an inferior species, snapped completely. "Enough," he roared. "I will show you and this entire council exactly what happens to species that forget their place." Without any further warning, Click-Thack lunged forward with his energy spear. The weapon moved with lightning speed toward Marcus's chest, aimed directly at his heart. The War Master had killed hundreds of enemies with exactly this attack. The glowing tip was designed to pierce through most known armor types, and would certainly go straight through the soft fabric of a human diplomat's suit. Several council members cried out in alarm. The Zephyrian delegate's crystal form flared with bright light. The groveling representative's fruit eyes began flashing rapid warnings. Even the Nebulae Collective's gaseous forms swirled frantically in their containment area, but their warnings came too late. The spear was already moving, already close enough to Marcus that nothing could stop it. The attack was too fast and too sudden for any normal person to avoid. The War Master's scarred face showed satisfaction as his weapon closed the final distance to the human's chest. This would end the negotiations quickly and permanently. It would also send a clear message to Earth and any other weak species watching from afar. The energy spear struck its target with a sound like thunder, and then something impossible happened. Marcus was still standing exactly where he had been. The spear had not pierced his chest. Instead, his right hand had moved up to catch the weapon just below its glowing tip. His fingers were wrapped around the metal shaft, holding it completely still, just inches from his body. The War Master stared in shock. His strongest attack, delivered with all his warrior training and enhanced by powered armor, had been stopped by a soft human hand wearing nothing more than a simple black glove. Marcus looked down at the energy spear, then up at Clickthak's compound eyes. His expression had not changed at all. He still looked like a mild-mannered diplomat who was having a normal conversation. "Interesting," Marcus said in the same calm voice he had used throughout the meeting. "It has been quite some time since someone tried to kill me." The chamber erupted in shocked voices and confused sounds from a dozen different species, but none of them were as shocked as War Master Clickthak, who was beginning to realize that something was very, very wrong with his understanding of the universe. The silence that followed Marcus's words was unlike anything the council chamber had ever experienced. Even the constant background hum of the station's life support systems seemed to fade away. War Master Clickthak stood frozen, his energy spear trapped in the human's gentle grip, unable to move it forward or pull it back. Marcus examined the weapon with mild curiosity, turning it slightly to see the energy patterns flowing through its crystalline core. Zephyrian design. If I am not mistaken, third-generation neuron disruptor with enhanced plasma focusing. Very efficient, very deadly. His voice carried the same polite tone he had used during negotiations, but something had changed in the air around him. The temperature in the chamber had not dropped, but several council members found themselves shivering. How? Clickthak struggled to speak. His mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme stress among the Vexthai. How is this possible? Clickthak, Marcus looked up at the towering warrior with what might have been sympathy. You made several errors in your assessment, War Master. Would you like me to explain them? The energy spear began to crack where Marcus held it. Hairline fractures spread up from his fingers, despite the fact that he appeared to be gripping it no harder than he might hold a pencil. The weapon's humming grew higher and more strained. First, Marcus continued conversationally, you assumed that physical appearance indicates combat capability. This is understandable but incorrect. The cracks in the spear reached the energy core. Sparks began to fly from the damaged weapon, but none of them seemed to touch Marcus's hand. Second, you believed that a species' official territory and military displays represent their true power. Again, a reasonable assumption that happens to be wrong in this case. Council Prime Resonance of Crystal Winds tried to speak, her crystalline form flickering with alarm. Ambassador Chen, please. Third, Marcus said, gently cutting her off without looking away from Clickthak. You thought that humanity's recent contact with the Galaxy Council meant we were new to space. That was perhaps your most significant mistake. The energy spear finally shattered completely, fragments of metal and crystal falling to the floor with musical sounds. Marcus opened his hand and brushed off the dust as if he had been holding flower petals instead of a weapon designed to kill armored warriors. War Master Clickthak stumbled backward, his forearms shaking. What are you? For the first time since entering the chamber, Marcus smiled. It was not a cruel expression, but it contained depths that made several council members look away instinctively. I am exactly what I told you I am, he said. A human diplomat, representing Earth in trade negotiations. But I am also something else. The air around Marcus began to shimmer like heat waves rising from hot pavement. The effect was subtle at first, barely visible, but it grew stronger as he continued speaking. I am one of the returned. One of those who went away and came back. One of those who learned things that perhaps should not be learned. The shimming effect spread outward from Marcus in slow waves. Where it touched the walls and floor, strange symbols appeared for brief moments before fading away. The symbols were old, older than any language the council members recognized. But looking at them filled every observer with a deep, primal unease. You see, Marcus said, his voice now carrying harmonics that seemed to come from somewhere far away. Humanity did not recently develop space travel. We returned from somewhere else. The humans you have been observing on Earth are our children, living peaceful lives while we who have seen too much stand guard in the dark between stars. Delegate flowing through nebulae spoke from the gaseous containment area, its voice like wind through empty spaces. Returned from where? Odio. Odio. Marcus turned toward the gas being, and for just a moment, his eyes reflected light that did not exist in the chamber. From places that exist between the spaces you know, from dimensions where time moves differently, from realities where the rules you think are absolute prove to be merely suggestions. The groveling representatives' fruit eyes began flashing in patterns that meant extreme distress in their species' visual language. How long have you been watching us? Long enough to see your species take its first steps into space. Long enough to watch the rise and fall of the Kurtak Empire. Though I suspect most of you have forgotten they ever existed. Long enough to observe 17 different galactic wars that left no record, because we ensured they ended before they could truly begin. Several council members made sounds of disbelief, but their protests died in their throats when Marcus looked at them directly. There was something in his gaze that spoke of vast patience and terrible experience. The humans on Earth are not pretending to be young and innocent, he continued. They genuinely are young and innocent. They represent our hope for a future where our species can exist without carrying the weight of what we have learned. War Master Clickthok finally found his voice again. This is impossible. We have records. Documentation. Your species sent its first radio signals only decades ago. Marcus nodded approvingly. Excellent observation. Those radio signals were indeed humanity's first official communication with the galaxy. They were also our invitation. Invitation to what? To this moment. To these negotiations. To the opportunity for our young ones to join the galactic community properly, rather than as conquerors or destroyers. The shimming effect around Marcus had grown stronger, and now the council members could see that he was somehow occupying more space than his physical body should allow. He appeared to be standing in the chamber, but also standing somewhere else at the same time, somewhere vast and empty and filled with distant stars. We could have revealed ourselves at any point during the past several thousand years, Marcus said. We chose to wait. We chose to let other species develop their own civilizations, their own technologies, to their own understanding of the universe. We chose to remain hidden until our children were ready to make their own place in the galaxy. Council Prime Resonance of Crystal Winds managed to speak despite her obvious fear. Why reveal this now? Marcus's expression grew sad, though the sadness seemed to contain entire lifetimes of regret. Because War Master Clickthak decided to threaten the life of a human diplomat during official negotiations. Because he represents the attitude that considers some species to be prey for others. Because this council needs to understand that humanity will not tolerate such treatment of our young ones. He gestured toward the broken remains of the energy spear. We have been patient with insults and condescension because we understand that you genuinely did not know better, but actual violence against human representatives crosses a line that cannot be uncrossed. The War Master looked down at his shattered weapon, then back up at Marcus. What will you do to me? Nothing, Marcus replied. I am not here for revenge or punishment. I am here to ensure that future negotiations proceed with proper understanding of what humanity represents. And what do we represent? Marcus's smile returned, but now it carried warmth instead of hidden depths. Hope. The possibility that a species can gain cosmic knowledge and power without losing its compassion. The chance that wisdom and strength can exist together without creating tyranny. He looked around the chamber, meeting each delegate's eyes in turn. We are not here to conquer or replace you. We are here to offer partnership to those willing to treat us and our children with the respect due to any sentient species. The air gradually stopped shimmering, and Marcus appeared normal again. Just a middle-aged human in a dark suit. But none of the council members would ever see him the same way again. Now then, he said, returning to his chair and picking up his tablet. Shall we continue with these trade negotiations? I believe we still have several points to discuss. The council chamber remained frozen in stunned silence for several long moments after Marcus returned to his seat. War Master Clickthok stood motionless, staring at the scattered pieces of his destroyed weapon. The other delegates looked between Marcus and each other, their various forms of body language all expressing the same emotion. Shock. Council Prime Resonance of Crystal Winds was the first to break the silence. Her crystalline form pulsed with agitated colors as she spoke. You claim to represent an ancient human civilization, but you provide no proof. Words and tricks with light prove nothing. Marcus looked up from his tablet with mild surprise. You require proof? I thought the demonstration with the energy spear might have been sufficient. Catching a weapon could be explained many ways, interjected Delegate Branch of Ancient Wisdom, the tree-like groveling representative. Perhaps you wear hidden armor. Perhaps you used some kind of personal shield generator. Several other council members made sounds of agreement. The gaseous beings in their containment swirled in patterns that suggested skepticism. Even some of the smaller delegates who had been frightened moments before began to nod their various heads and appendages. Marcus sighed softly. I see. You need something more convincing than a simple defensive action. Much more, said War Master Clickthok, who had recovered enough to speak again. The Vex Thai do not base strategic decisions on parlor tricks. Understood. Marcus set down his tablet and folded his hands on the desk. What would you consider adequate proof? Council Prime Resonance of Crystal Winds chimed with what sounded like regained confidence. Show us these ancient human ships you claim exist. Show us the technology you say surpasses our own. Show us something that cannot be explained by clever preparation or simple luck. Very well. Marcus touched a small device on his wrist that none of them had noticed before. It was simple and black, like everything else he carried, but when he pressed it, the device made no sound at all. Nothing visible happened for almost a full minute. The council members began to exchange glances that suggested they thought Marcus was stalling for time or bluffing. Then the chamber's main display screen activated without anyone touching any controls. The screen showed the view outside the station, with Nexus Prime's purple oceans and golden continents spinning slowly below them. But something was wrong with the picture. What is that? Whispered Delegate, flowing through nebulae. Dark shapes were moving against the star field. They had not been there before, but now they were clearly visible. Approaching the station from multiple directions, the shapes were enormous, larger than any ships in the Council's combined fleets. Stealth ships, Marcus explained calmly. They have been here the entire time. They are always here, actually. Wherever human diplomats conduct important business, the dark shapes moved closer to the camera, and their true size became apparent. Each one was at least 5 kilometers long and looked nothing like any known ship design. Instead of the smooth curves or geometric angles preferred by most species, these vessels seemed to be made of crystallized darkness itself, with surfaces that bent light in impossible ways. War Master Clickthak stumbled to the observation window and pressed his face against the clear material. Impossible. Our sensors show nothing. No energy signatures, no mass readings, nothing. Your sensors are not designed to detect ships that exist partially outside normal spacetime, Marcus said. We learned long ago that the best way to remain hidden is to simply not be entirely present in the same dimension as those searching for you. The largest of the dark ships moved directly in front of the station's main viewport. It was close enough now that they could see details on its hull. The surface was covered in the same strange symbols that had briefly appeared around Marcus, and the symbols were glowing with soft light that somehow made the space around them appear darker. How many ships? Asked Council Prime Resonance of Crystal Winds, her voice barely above a whisper. Marcus touched his wrist device again, and the display changed to show a tactical view of the entire star system. Red dots appeared throughout the three-dimensional map, marking ship positions. There were hundreds of them. They surrounded every major planet, every space station, every significant asteroid colony. This is just the local defense fleet, Marcus explained. The main battle groups are stationed in the spaces between dimensions, ready to respond to any serious threat to human interests. Delegate Branch of Ancient Wisdom's fruit eyes flickered rapidly. Defense against what? What enemies could require such a massive fleet? Marcus was quiet for a moment, as if considering how much to reveal. There are things that exist in the dark between galaxies. Ancient things that view organized civilization as food. The younger species of this galaxy have never encountered them, because we have been standing guard. For how long? Since before your species developed written language, the tactical display zoomed out further, showing the position of human ships throughout the entire galactic arm. The red dots formed a defensive network that spanned thousands of light years, positioned to intercept threats from deep space before they could reach inhabited systems. Every major war in galactic history, Marcus continued, every conflict that seemed to end for unexplained reasons, every invasion force that disappeared without a trace, we were involved. Not to control or conquer, but to prevent catastrophes that would have destroyed millions of innocent lives. War Master Clickthak turned away from the viewport, his mandibles clicking in distress. The War of Seven Suns. Our historians say the Devourer fleet simply vanished during the final battle. We redirected them into a pocket dimension. They are still there, actually, trying to figure out how to escape back to normal space. They will be trying for quite a long time. The plague ships that threatened the Zephyrian homeworld? Destroyed by weapons that your scientists assumed were natural solar flares. The Dark Fleet of Mutakar the Destroyer. Mutakar and his entire armada are currently imprisoned in a time loop, reliving the same day over and over. He will remain there until he learns to value life more than conquest. So far, he has not made much progress. The council members stared at the tactical display in growing horror. Each red dot represented power beyond their understanding, and the dots covered their entire region of space. Council Prime Resonance of Crystal Winds spoke in a voice like breaking glass. Why tell us this? Why reveal your true strength now? Marcus gestured toward War Master Clickthak. Because your War Master just attempted to murder a human diplomat during peaceful negotiations. Because this council needs to understand that humanity's patience has limits. He touched his wrist device once more, and the display changed again. Now it showed Earth, looking peaceful and blue-green in the darkness of space. But surrounding Earth were more red dots, more ships, more defensive positions than anywhere else in the galaxy. The humans you will interact with in trade agreements are genuine, Marcus said. They are young, hopeful, exploring their place in the universe with wonder and curiosity. They do not know about these ships or these ancient wars or the things that hunt between the stars. The image zoomed in on Earth's surface, showing cities and farms and forests full of normal human life. We who are older prefer our children to learn about the universe in their own time, at their own pace, without the burden of cosmic responsibility that we carry. But we will not allow harm to come to them while they learn. Marcus stood up and walked to the center of the chamber. As he moved, the symbols appeared again briefly on the walls and floor, and several council members backed away from him instinctively. So let me be very clear about humanity's position in future negotiations, he said, his voice carrying perfect calm authority. We ask for fair treatment, honest trade agreements, and respect for our sovereignty. In return, we offer partnership, shared knowledge, and protection from threats you cannot imagine. He looked directly at each council member in turn. But if any species chooses to treat humans as prey, if any government decides to attack human colonies or ships or diplomats, they will discover that the most dangerous predators in the galaxy are the ones that prefer not to hunt. The tactical display faded away, leaving only the view of the dark ships hanging in space around the station like silent guardians. Now, Marcus said, returning to his seat with a smile, shall we discuss those trade agreements? I believe humanity deserves somewhat better terms than we were offered earlier. The negotiations that resumed after Marcus's demonstration were unlike anything the Galaxy Council had ever experienced. Where before there had been condescension and dismissal, now there was careful attention to every word the human diplomat spoke. Where before there had been attempts to dictate unfair terms, now there were genuine offers of partnership. Council Prime Resonance of Crystal Winds was the first to speak after the tactical display faded away. Her crystalline form had shifted from the aggressive reds and oranges of earlier to cooler blues and whites. Ambassador Chen, perhaps we should reconsider the proposed trade routes. Marcus opened his tablet as if the previous hour had been a minor interruption. I would appreciate that. Humanity is particularly interested in the Kepler Vortex shipping lanes. We believe our cargo ships could reduce transit time significantly without interfering with existing traffic patterns. The Kepler Vortex routes? Delegate Branch of Ancient Wisdom's fruit eyes stopped their nervous flashing. Those are restricted to Council member species with full military protection agreements. Then perhaps it is time for humanity to have full Council membership, suggested delegate flowing through nebulae from the gaseous containment area. The suggestion hung in the air like a challenge. Full Council membership was normally a process that took decades or centuries, requiring extensive military demonstrations, economic contributions, and cultural integration. It was not something offered lightly to any species. Marcus tilted his head thoughtfully. That is generous, but unnecessary. Humanity is content with associate status for now. Our young ones are not ready for the responsibilities that come with full membership. But you are ready, said War Master Clickthak quietly. The giant warrior had remained silent since seeing the human fleet. But now he spoke with newfound respect. Your people have been protecting this galaxy for millennia. You have earned full rights many times over. Perhaps, Marcus agreed. But the humans you will be trading with do not know about ancient wars or cosmic threats. They know about growing food, building homes, creating art, and exploring space with wonder. We prefer to keep it that way for as long as possible. 1. Ender 1, Council Prime Resonance of Crystal Winds chimed softly. How do we interact with both versions of humanity? The young ones who genuinely need guidance, and the ancient ones who could destroy us without effort? Marcus smiled warmly. The same way you would interact with any species, with honesty, fairness, and respect. The young humans you meet will be exactly what they appear to be: curious, energetic, sometimes naive, always hoping to make friends among the stars. Treat them well, and you will have no problems with the rest of us. And if we do not treat them well? Asked Delegate Silverscales of Morning, a reptilian being who had remained silent throughout most of the negotiations. Then you will have problems you cannot solve, Marcus replied simply. But I do not expect that to happen. Most species in this galaxy are fundamentally decent, once they understand the situation. The next several hours passed in productive discussion. Trade routes were established that gave Earth access to rare materials while offering human agricultural products and technological innovations to Council worlds. Cultural exchange programs were planned to allow young humans to study alien civilizations, while Council students could visit Earth universities. Scientific cooperation agreements were drafted to share research on non-military technologies. Dispute resolution procedures were established to handle future conflicts through diplomacy rather than force. Throughout all these discussions, Marcus remained the same, polite, knowledgeable diplomat he had been at the beginning. But now the Council members listened to his suggestions with genuine interest, instead of patronizing tolerance. There is one more matter we should address, said War Master Clickthak as the formal negotiations neared their end. My attack on Ambassador Chen. By Vexthai law, I must face judgment for assault on a diplomatic representative. Marcus looked up from his tablet where he had been reviewing the final agreements. Under what authority would you be judged? The War Council of my homeworld would normally. No, Marcus interrupted gently. I am the injured party. Under galactic law, I have the right to determine the appropriate response to the attack. The chamber fell silent again. Everyone remembered how easily Marcus had stopped the energy spear. How casually he had destroyed an advanced weapon with his bare hand. They waited to see what punishment he would choose for the warrior who had tried to kill him. Marcus stood and walked over to where Clickthak sat on his stone platform. The height difference between them was still dramatic, but somehow the human no longer seemed small. War Master, Marcus said, you acted according to your understanding of the situation. You believed you were dealing with a weak species that needed to be taught its place. Your actions, while unacceptable, came from ignorance rather than malice. Clickthak's mandibles clicked nervously. What is your judgment? That you will serve as liaison between the Vexthai military and the human colonies in the Outer Rim. You will help ensure that our young people receive proper respect and protection as they establish their first settlements beyond Earth's solar system. The warrior's compound eyes widened in surprise. You want me to protect humans? I want you to understand humans, Marcus corrected. To see them as they truly are, brave, curious beings, worthy of friendship and respect. To help your people and mine work together instead of fighting over dominance. This is not what I expected, Marcus smiled. The best punishments rarely are. He returned to his seat and gathered his materials. I believe our business here is concluded. The agreements we have reached today should serve both humanity and the Council well for many years to come. Council Prime Resonance of Crystal Winds rose from her crystal pillar. Before you depart, Ambassador, there is one question that many of us have been afraid to ask. Yes? Are there other species like humanity? Other ancient civilizations hiding among the stars? Marcus paused in packing his briefcase. For a moment, his expression grew distant, as if he were listening to voices from very far away. The universe is vast and old, he said finally. There are many kinds of beings in the spaces between spaces. Some are friendly. Some are not. Some are so different from anything you know that friendship or enmity have no meaning to them. Are we safe? You are safer than you know. The galaxy has many guardians, and most of them want nothing more than to be left alone to watch and wait and remember. He closed his briefcase and stood. But that is a conversation for another day. Today, we have accomplished something important. The beginning of true partnership between humanity and the galactic community. As Marcus walked toward the chamber doors, the tactical display automatically activated one last time. The red dots showing human ship positions faded away, leaving only empty space around the planets and stations. But everyone in the chamber knew the ships were still there, invisible and patient. One final thing, Marcus said, pausing at the doorway. The humans you will meet in the coming months and years are not actors or pretenders. They are genuinely young and hopeful and excited about joining the galactic community. Please help them feel welcome. And if we need to contact you? Asked Council Prime Resonance of Crystal Winds. Marcus smiled one last time. You will not need to. But if you ever do need us, we will know. The chamber doors closed behind him with a soft hiss, leaving the council members to contemplate their changed understanding of the universe. Outside the station's viewports, the stars looked the same as they always had. But now the delegates knew that those apparently empty spaces held guardians older and more powerful than they had ever imagined. In the weeks that followed, Earth began receiving the first trade delegations from Council worlds. Young human diplomats and merchants greeted alien visitors with genuine excitement and wonder, eager to learn about new cultures and share their own. They had no idea that their safety was guaranteed by ancient warships hiding in folded space, and their older guardians intended to keep it that way for as long as possible. The galaxy had found a new kind of peace, built not on the dominance of the strong over the weak, but on the protection of innocence by those who had learned that true strength meant knowing when not to use it. And somewhere in the dark between stars, Marcus Chen and others like him continued their eternal watch, ensuring that humanity's children could grow up in a universe full of friends instead of predators.